Hi, Luke. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. It's a great opportunity to be here.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine to have you in my show. And yeah, it'll be like a great story to share with our audiences. You have an incredible story about your life, how you built your businesses, also overcame losing your extra body weight. You wanted to do that. And so, yeah, love to know more about that. So, before I get to like the topic, I'd love to know more about yourself. Like, how did you end up starting your own business and what actually motivated you?
Well, I've always had I've always loved to work
Mhm.
more than I loved school at any point because I could see the results of work from an early age. So I always gravitated towards that. And I was very fortunate early in my career to be given an opportunity for a startup and to be more entrepreneurial, to be more autonomous in what I did. And that once I had that bug, once that was in me, um, I was one of those crazy entrepreneurs that would rather work 80 hours for myself than 40 hours for someone else. And I never turned back. But with that, there was always trials and tribulations, successes and failures
Yeah.
that we all learn from over. You get knocked down time and time again. And one of the things that got me to where I am today was maturing past the failures and really pivoting in my life to realizing that life is happening for me and not to me and not being a victim of it. But that took a long time and led me into what I do today with transformational mindset coaching because I realized that how we feel about things, our mindset, our perspective, how we approach life. We're all knocked down. We all face challenges and obstacles, but we can either treat those as things that are happening to us and we get more defeated and we start
Yeah.
blaming other people, or life is happening to us and these opportunities are not obstacles. They're opportunities for us to grow and learn and take accountability for our actions. And I learned this lesson um, very strongly, more so that it impacted me personally about 3 or so years ago when I was asked to donate blood and bone marrow
Mhm.
for someone who was tragically a leukemia patient because I had been a registered donor.
Yeah.
Um, and that was when it happened at a point in my life where I had kind of lost focus. I had let go of some of the things that I should have been keeping my mind on, which was my health,
Yeah.
which is the foundation for any our physical health. It, empowers our mental health and clarity. And I found myself in my life, as you mentioned, with weight that I was 313 pounds. I was obese. I was not
Wow.
happy with myself.
Yeah.
I kind of retreated from life. I was always an outgoing, active person, and I sort of took a step into the background and started voyeuring, watching life happen,
Mm.
taking care of my kids and doing business. But I really wasn't doing business at the optimal level. I was sort of just maintaining what I
Was
had
it you
built.
always been like overweight or like a certain point of your age you become overweight?
No, I'd always been an athlete.
Okay.
I played college sports. I played sports since I was young. I
Yeah.
always stayed fit and active, and then I allowed circumstances in my life, getting divorced, losing a few businesses as they
Mm.
happened through different parts of recessions. And I owned a mortgage company in 2008 during the mortgage recession and the
Yeah.
bank crisis. I went to a startup. Unfortunately, that fell. A lot of startups tend to fall. So I had some life lessons along the way, and then with the divorce, I'd kind of let those external things, change my focus and allowed. I started being a victim of the external things, and with that, I sought comfort in food and drink.
Yeah.
And then I allowed myself,
So
and
you
it
try
wasn't.
to distract it, right, from the
I
what's going
it's
on to
that
the outside world.
Exactly. I think what we call it is self-medicating. And
Yeah.
I think what happens with men, especially men, is that they feel that they should be able to handle everything on their own. That
Mm.
they don't need to talk or emote or communicate or, talk about their feelings or what's going on. Their job as men is to take care of their family. Their job as men is to take care of business. And that's our responsibility. That's how we're wired. And when you try to do it all on your own, but you don't have the tools or the resources to get out of your own way,
Yeah.
you just start digging yourself deeper. And that's where I was. I wasn't asking for help. I was trying to figure it out on my own. But as Einstein said, is that we cannot solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them.
Yeah.
So I didn't have perspective or insight on what I was doing to sabotage myself. I was merely, and then with that, obviously there's regrets and anger, and so I turned to alcohol and food, and just as a self medication to dull that sort of emotional pain, and to continue to do what I was doing, and that led to the weight increase. And before I knew it, I was 60, 70, 80 pounds over where I should be.
Hmm.
And it didn't happen overnight, it happened in a year or so. And, but by the time I realized I was at rock bottom,
Yeah.
was at the same time that I was called upon to help this person out, to donate. And it was at that point where I was sitting on the hospital bed after kind of rushed through a bunch of tests because the critical ill patient needed my donation, and I was on this hospital bed,
Yeah.
and I started crying. And the nurse said, "Are you in pain? Is something going on? What's going on?" It's just, and what I realized is that I had put myself in this position. There
Mm.
was a person who was dying of leukemia who who didn't do anything in his life to create that for himself. It wasn't a lifestyle choice. It wasn't bad behaviors. It wasn't
Yeah.
habits. He did nothing. It was just happenstance that he had leukemia and that he was was dying and needed this donation to survive. Meanwhile, I'm on this bed, quite overweight, obese, and I realized that I had made this decision to eat and drink. I had made this decision not to ask for help. I had made these decisions that put me exactly where I was in my
Mm.
life. And I had to accept responsibility and accountability for it. I couldn't blame the economy. I couldn't blame some other source. Um, there was no blame. There was just an acceptance of that. But in that acceptance and that accountability that I controlled my life was this sudden surge of hope that, wait a minute, if I made these decisions to put me here in a bad way, I can make different decisions to get me out of it, to become
Yeah.
better, to make my goals and take ownership of my life. And that's when I started crying, is realizing, well, if I can do this. But then I realized this sort of epiphany, this enlightenment, this aha moment, that I needed help. I couldn't do it on my own. And I had to be okay with that. I needed to ask for help. And that's when my life changed, was when I was willing to open myself up to getting
Yeah.
help and instruction from other people who, once I raised my hand, so many people came and met me when I walked towards them, um, to help me on the journey that became my new life. And how I help other people is paying that forward. And that was the catalyst of changing mindsets, of
Mm.
helping, empowering people to free themselves and take back ownership of their lives, that they could do anything. Within months of asking for help, I lost 65, 70 pounds. With that, I got my confidence back and my energy.
How long did it
Um,
take to lose all of the weight?
only about 3 or 4 months.
Oh, wow.
It was I was reached out to by a good friend who didn't even know I was doing, kind of at rock bottom, and he had
Yeah.
asked how I was doing, and I said, and I was able to be honest. I said, I'm not, I'm miserable. I'm at rock bottom. I'm this way, and I just told him my situation. And he said, let's meet up. I have something for you. He turned out to, he was a trainer. He owned a health club. He was a businessman. Um, he had a program that thought would work for me. So he explained the program. I went on that program. I lost 65 to 70 pounds within 4 months.
Hmm.
I later ended up, and I still do, I have a side business in health coaching, where I coach other people on how to lose weight and maintain proper
Yeah.
health, and mostly to get mental clarity so they can apply their best selves and become their best selves, to apply it in all other areas of life, in work, in relationships, in community, in faith, and family, because it is the foundation. It's the bedrock. You can't serve others when you're not at 100%. When your cup is empty, you can't pour into others. You
Yeah.
can't pay it forward. And that's the lesson, one of the lessons I learned, by asking for help, by looking for mentors, by finding coaches, that became the new me, was always looking for someone else who was successful in navigating whatever area that you needed help in. There's someone else who's already done it. There's someone else who already has a program or a plan or a methodology or a strategy. And all you have to do is be open to learning and doing that. and you'll be as successful or more successful than you ever have been because you're open to that. When you're closed off and you think you can figure it out on your own, that's when you start spiraling downward and you have that fixed mindset instead of a growth mindset.
Yeah. And how did you come up with the growth mindset? I know, like you mentioned, on the hospital bed, you realize like you need to make the change because of the reason, like your lowest moment of your life, the bad choices you made. But after that, like when you made the shift, like I need to change, and going through the process, it's not easy as you think. Like probably hitting your gym or like doing the diet, it's not easy to keep on be consistent on it and get the results. How did you stay consistent? How did you develop the kind of mindset like I need to do it no matter what?
It was really because what had happened is that, yeah, any diet, anyone can have willpower and just eat a certain way and lose weight,
Yeah.
but 80 to 90% of those people gain all their weight back within a year or two because they don't learn new habits and behaviors.
Mm,
And that is the daily consistency. Is you have to change your mind, you have to change your wiring. And I was very fortunate with the program that I now coach, both in mindset and wellness. The wellness program that had me lose the weight had this mindset component. It
yeah.
had this life, these life shifts that you daily practiced, and you reprogrammed your brain over time by taking these small incremental actions over time that would add up to new behaviors and new habits. Because if we don't change our habits, then we'll default back to what got us in trouble in the first place. Those behaviors that are like grooves in a record that are permanently in our brain, we have to create new ones. And I was very fascinated on how to do this from a scientific and a logical point of view. I
Mm,
wanted to know more. And when I dug deep into knowing more about how our brain works, how we form habits and behaviors, where our identity comes, why do we make the choices we make, I was just fascinated with it and really went down that rabbit hole and studied it. And when I studied it, I realized that anyone can change, that we're not fixed. We're not who we always were. We can change who we become by understanding and giving ourselves power and the tools to start shifting out of those things that are going to keep us back, become obstacles when we're self-inflicting,
yeah.
and holding ourselves back. And once I understood the formula for it, the neuroscience, I said, how do I really apply this in my life on a day-to-day basis in any area of my life? How do I change the way I think? How do I get rid of those limiting beliefs or those myths and misconceptions that were put upon me by my family, maybe my religion, by society, by community, the TV, the news? Like, why did I accept all these things as truths when they were incongruent with what I wanted to achieve? And that's where so many people face this friction,
Yeah.
and this unhappiness, and sometimes this gloom and frustration and anger, and feel like they're helpless, is because they want so many things for not just themselves, but to provide to others and help out. And that's why we're designed as humans to be part of a community and to, make everyone else better together. And yet they feel like they're going two steps forward, one step back, and they're so that's self-sabotage and they don't know what's happening. Well, it's the difference between what their mind has been trained to do,
Mm,
in their belief systems, to what in the subconscious, to what they're consciously trying to do. And there's a dichotomy, there's a friction there, because a belief set said, no, wealthy people are not good people, they walk on others to get success. Yet you want success, so everything you do to become successful is negated by the fact that internally you believe that you don't want to be a bad person, so maybe you don't take those opportunities, or challenge yourself or do the things that would make you successful, because your belief system is not congruent. It's actually against and sabotaging you, holding you back for doing the things you want to do. So we need to go in and rewire those beliefs and challenge those beliefs that don't serve you, that maybe were limited or just untrue, that were given to you by your surroundings and your environment at a much earlier age.
yeah, definitely. So, like we as an entrepreneur, like you always mentioned, like we try to take on like so many on our plate, and we think like we can do it, we can handle it without sharing to the other people, like people like our friends, our family members, their spouse. We think like we can to take on everything and end up being like overwhelmed, end up being lose ourselves, like mental health and physical health as well. So those who thinks like they can handle it, how they can open up to like someone, either could be a coach, either be a consultant, either could be like their family members, and be open up like I need help there, I need to open up, I'll be emotional or things like that.
Well, I think first, especially entrepreneurs, it's the loneliest place to be because not
Yeah.
many people understand you or are wired for entrepreneurism. Typically, when entrepreneurs talk about they're going to take these risks, they have a gut feeling they really want to create something and be outside, quote unquote, the normal of what their expectations of their parents or their community or their society or their friends expect of them. They're going to get pushback. A lot of times it's going to come in negative, get a real job, or that's too risky, or
Mm,
that's not what we do. If you have parents who are doctors and you don't want to be a doctor, or an engineer and you don't want to be an engineer, you get a lot of pressure
yeah.
from close family. And you have to understand a lot of times they have great intentions, but they're limited in their identity or their projection of who you should be in relation to them. And that's where you really have to develop kind of a thicker skin and go with what you want to do. And what helps you is to be around other like-minded people. There are always mentors or mentorship groups, or masterminds or people that have already successfully done what you're looking to do or something similar, and to study them and to be part of their programs or to get into a group of like-minded entrepreneurs just to talk, to understand the challenges that you have emotionally, the challenges you have in
Yeah.
operations in any business. Is once you're around an environment where people understand you, then it helps you to emote and communicate and get that out of your system and learn from it and learn from each other, and not only be mentored but also be a peer to someone else who is also going through what you're going through. And so those are the two things. Is one is to find like-minded people in the entrepreneurship who understand the challenges you're going through, because then you're in an environment where you're all working together to overcome those obstacles, and you already have mentors who will show you the way, and then you just put in the effort. But when it comes down to those people closest to you, often what happens is you're growing as an entrepreneur, you're growing as a person, you're leveling up, you're growing through what you go through those obstacles and opportunities to get bigger perspective, to gain more knowledge, to apply it. You
Mhm.
may leave those close people behind. If those friends and those family aren't in a position or don't choose to also grow with you in their own realm, then that's what happens. Is sometimes you just leave them behind, um, because you can't stop your own progress, but you cannot be anchored by people with limited beliefs who are holding you back, or maybe become toxic in your world. And sometimes we let them go. Sometimes we just distance ourselves with the frequencies of our interaction. And this could be family or friends or close relatives. But you have your life to live. You're not subject to living the life of what other people expect from you.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, if someone come to you like for advice or like a guidance for their mindset, what would be like your advice would be for someone can go for like a New Year resolution? Probably they want to lose weight or probably start a new business or new habits for like we're coming for 2023. So, what would be your first advice for someone like who comes for your help?
The first advice I give to all my clients, regardless whether it's New Year's or anything, is I have them ask themselves three questions and sit with three questions until they get a real clear answer. And those questions are: what do you really want
Right.
out of life? What do you really want? You have to get really focused on what do you want, not what other people want for you, not what you think you should have from, the celebrities or other successful people. What do you want in your life?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, why do you want it? You have to have that emotional anchor, because if you're not emotionally committed, if you don't know why, the emotions of why you want something, then if you go to achieve it, you're not going to have the endurance, you're not going to have the mental fortitude, you're not going to have the strength and resilience to get through all the hard work and challenges to achieve it, because it's not tied to something that very strong why. And
Mm,
those people can go back to Simon Sinek's great TED talk, you're getting your why. That's a great refresher to really understanding the emotional component of the what you want. And the third thing is to fully anchor it by saying, asking yourself, how are you going to feel when you achieve it? Putting yourself in that emotional state of already achieving the success, or whatever you really want, when you have it, how are you going to feel? And if you can't put yourself in that excitement, that blissful state, that sense of accomplishment, it's going to be, um, what's going to happen is that you might go after something and achieve it, but not be satisfied, and you'll be unfulfilled when you
Yeah.
have it. And that's where a lot of people do. They go out and acquire wealth, but they don't have fulfillment. They have
Yeah.
success, but no fulfillment. There's no joy. There's no purpose. There's no passion. There's no happiness. And that's not how we're supposed to. That doesn't engage life. That doesn't engage all of our senses. That doesn't marry the mind, the body, and the heart all together in the direction we want to go. So is to really sit back and say, what do you really want? Why do you want it? And how's it going to make you feel when you achieve it? When all three of those are in alignment, then you can ask, well, how do I do this? And that's when you can go look for a mentor or a course or a program or an influencer or someone else that's already done what you're looking to do, and then just find the blueprint. And then at that point, it's just a method of being open and coachable and teachable and having the willpower to put in the energy and effort to see it through. But if you're backed by that strong what, that strong why, and that how, then you're going to be on your road to success.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a great advice. So, yeah, look, we're coming to the end of this podcast. It's been a great pleasure learning more about your story and yeah, sharing a few things for our audience as well. So, yeah, those who's listening, if anyone interested to learn more about your program, yourself, where is the best place to find you?
The best place is simply my website. It's Luke Harlan Coaching, LukeHarlan coaching.com. Sign up. There's a newsletter, there's resources. Um, and then you can learn about all the different programs, the coaching, speaking, and courses that I have to help facilitate your mindset freedom so you can take back power and control in your life to create the life that you've always wanted.
Yeah, thank you for that. So it's been a great pleasure like having you on the show. And thank you for your time today. I wish you best of luck and yeah, you have a great day ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. So that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it, got some value from it. So those who's interested in learning more about Luke, go to visit his website and you can reach out to him. You can check out his programs and everything. So until then, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.